that asked that question. What was that question? Can I strictly use? Yeah. If you've seen Ash in the chat, he's one of my very good friends, oldest student. He solely uses the M5 and M3. He doesn't use anything else. So yeah, you can just use that. I'm gonna go over like one more example of this, but like you can tell right here, build up prior to 9:30. 9:30 in itself is inducement. That inducement happens, and you push, obviously, right? So, and then this was a day to all-time highs. If you want to use like M5, M3 only, I would suggest look at Asia. Asia is very clean. Asia works well with RBOS. If you want, even look at EU. EU works very well with RBOS. So like very, very simple. Let me find an example right here, right? Yeah, I mean, you can tell kind of lit cycles form very, very well in Asia on M5. You can see them very, very clearly. It's not much more complicated than that. You have build up, you have inducement into SMT, pull up, and then you have a div, and then this is low of day. This is a nice little timing thing, and then price pushes up, and then you have order flow continuous. This is a flip zone, push up. I don't think M5 needs much more explanation, but again, right here or right here, you can consider. Actually, this day was very, very nice. So price before Asia started to build up, right? You had to push up. However, you should understand that your overall narrative is bullish, right? If you have 1 hour lows get taken, right, and you're, trying to push to all-time highs, you should understand that you're a little bit more bullish, right? So if PM the previous day induced and then you start to see expansion off of that, you should understand, okay, we're continuing that expansion into the next day. So you can think about this push up as more enticing you into entering, right? And then if this is enticing you into entering, hold on, let me delete this. But if this is enticing you into entering, right, and you're actually bullish, do you think this is inducement? This is not inducement, right? This move down would be inducement. So many people would consider this expansion, which is where all those retailers get fucked over, right? So you push down, right? You tap into this POI, you see this initial reaction, right? And if you see this initial reaction, you should automatically like have like a fucking light switch flick in your head and be like, okay, well, now we're likely bullish, right? So you should at least, if you did not catch this, you should at least be looking for Contis off of M5 OBs or M5 IDM POIs, because technically that is an M5 IDM POI. You have this build up right here, you have inducement right here, you have a push up, and you have very nice reaction off of this SMT to pull price down. You have a micro AMD cycle inducing down into your POI and then pushing back up. Again, build up, inducement, blah, 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 right? Works very, very well in Asia. Same thing right here, build up, inducement down. If your bias is bullish, then you should be able to hit this trade, take this. And you're not going to get like again, I don't want you to fucking see my chart and be like, oh, I have to hit like 10 RRs or whatever the fuck you need to hit, or not even like 10, like 15, 20. You can be very consistent with like 6. Like if you take Honey, for example, very, very nice lit trader. He is just consistently hitting like 6, 8 RRs. And that's like without fail. So lit should provide you a very good narrative with like an 80% win rate, and you can still hit 6 RRs very, very consistently, just taking mitigations. Like for here, I look at reactions off of M15 mitigation. However, you can dumb this down to an M5 OB and then just limit this, and then you can have your stop at the high. And then this is still, like, if you're targeting this low, you're still getting a solid 8 RR. You don't need a fucking RR max and have like a 50 RR. But yeah. This is also an example of like continuous buildup, or what Arctic calls like counter AMD, which is basically if you have expansion in this direction, right? So you 9:30, what you have is, or was that at 9:30? No, it was at like 10. But what you have is inducement upwards, right, into this mitigation. I hope you can tell this is an OB, right? and then you have expansion. This buildup is continuous. Again, bearish buildup in the direction of your expansion. Then we expand once more. You're not taking this. You're not taking this. You're not just taking the fucking sweep. Otherwise, you're getting cooked, right? You're taking a continuation after you understand, okay, we rejected, and then now we actually have a confirmed inducement low. So then you're taking a continuation. So maybe you're taking this, and you don't have to take fucking this. You can take like this, have your stop at the low, and have like your shit like I don't know, fucking here or some shit, right? And you have a nice 4RR. A 4RR every day is pretty fucking good. So yeah, and then but here I just ended up taking a turtle soup, and then turtle soup entry to build up highs. Worked very very well, right? I'll go over questions, but I hope that answered the other guy's question about like if you just use M5. But yeah, you can just bro, with the way lit works, you can genuinely use whatever the fuck you want. Um, I was asking about the IDM thing because I've seen people mark shit from far, far left, price induce. The only inducement that I'm taking from the far, far left or like OB is I'm just taking mitigation OBs. For example, like, hold on, let me show you. Like here, we have price at 930, right? There's no OB here. Therefore, I'm not looking at this. Like, I'm not looking at anything to the left here. Actually, I'll show you this. Hold on. And ignore all of that bullshit on the screen. But, like, right here, if you take a look at 930, there's no actual OB. Yes, this is an OB. I'm looking at this as an OB, but this never gets tapped. So I'm not looking at mitigation off of this. Therefore, I'm not taking longs. However, what happens is we have this M5 OB right here, right? And price perfectly mitigates it, right? I'm just taking very nice rejection off of it, right? And then I think I took something down here, but and then you have just a shit ton of order flow here. This was just a bunch of pyramids. I think I pyramided like once or twice, not like fucking 5 times, but it did present 5-ish times. But this is an example of choosing right FEGs on HTF. So for example, you have an OB right here, right? You're not going to take this FEG on like the M5 because there's no OB preceding it. So instead, you're waiting for this OB. This OB, I took this trade. This was one of the losses that I took on this day. And then price came down after blowing through this OB. Then only am I looking at this FEG. Then this FEG gets tapped. Price rejects off of it. And I see, okay, buy pressure is starting, or sell pressure is starting to slow down a shit ton. So I look at rejection and I take price right here. And then we're bullish, right? And then you could take the pullback. Again, pullback doesn't always have to be IDM POI. I don't need you guys to be like fucking rotted in the brain and think, oh, IDM POI always has to be your pullback. IDM POI can be some kind of soup in the direction. It's just IDM POI works so well because typically price in these cycles will always revert back to an OB, but it doesn't always have to, right? I can show a very nice example of it not always having to, because this is an example that I show a shit ton of people. Which was right here. So price right here at 930. Again, 930 in itself is inducement. So what happens is price pushes up. We have FEG right here, mitigated, right? You could take a rejection entry already nice and easy. Right here, you don't have really an IDM POI to go off of. So you don't need to fucking take, I don't know, like you don't need to take this OB, have your stop at the high, and take this shit, right? What you can do instead is use like PA as a whole, where, okay, we have bearish draws, right? Knowing our expansion is bearish. So any bullish SMT is going to provide a reversal because what do we know? We know that SMTs obviously provide still reversals in the market, right? It's just, is it going to hold? No, it's going to get ran through, right? So if this is going to get ran through, then what's going to happen is it's going to provide a small reversal. You can take an entry off the top of that reversal and then watch it get ran through, and then that's your entry. So you don't need to be looking at like IDM POI and such like that, if that makes sense. This is another example of not getting enticed into taking trades. So for example, right here in Asia, we have buildup, right? We have inducement. Key Asia inducement timings would be 1800. 1800 in itself is manipulation most times. 8 p.m., and then you can consider 4-hour power of 3, but I don't. So I just look at 1800 and 8 p.m. But then price induces upwards, you create an inducement protected high, and then price pushes down. So if you understand for Asia already, we had 1800 manipulation, and we are expanding down to lower draws, like somewhere here, right? Then you need to understand that right at this moment, you build up and you induce lower. This inducement lower is not inducement. This is just to trick you into having false manipulation. Price induces upwards. This is now an inducement protected high, and then price pushes down. All right. This is just another example of mitigation where price mitigates, and then you have a nice pullback, right? 50% of that candle's body, if you want to be like mechanical with it, right? And then price pushes up, and many more examples. But and then like I can show an example of continuous buildup that I was talking about, right? Where price creates continuous buildup in the direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep a low and then reverse. Another very nice example is price comes here, right? Oh shit. Price comes here. You have 15 points. Right? Price comes here, you start to see rejection. Right? I mean, obviously we build up, right? We build up 930. You see 930 itself induce into M15 mitigation, right? You start to see rejection. This was good enough for me. And then I took price that way. And then you see price pull down, tap into this SMT right here. Hold on. How do I mark this shit out? Right here. And then price taps into this SMT, pulls back. You can once again take an entry off of here. And then you see price tap into another SMT, pullback, right? But most importantly, what I'm trying to point out is that continuous buildup in the direction of your expansion. So right now we're expanding bearish, right? Then we have continuous buildup in the direction of our expansion. Price induces down, we take London lows. And then only after this inducement protected low, or after this like is confirmed as an inducement protected low, am I only taking a continuation. For example, like here, I'm not like taking this shit, or I'm not taking an entry here because price can very well wick down and then push up, stop me out. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for any kind of Conti in my direction. For example, I'm not taking this way too far up for me, but right here I see, okay, we have a nice FVG. Again, you can think of like the first presented FVG of these kind of setups as very well. I just don't look at that shit, and it's more like intuitive, but it still works. Price pulls down to that FVG and then pulls back up. These are like a bunch of examples on M5 working very well. So for the person that asked, like, oh, how can you look at M5? Look at Asia and look at M5. Look at this. Price builds up, price induces down on the M5, right? We push up, then we start. So then this is your IDM POI. Price builds up once again, induces down into the M5 POI, pushes up, right? And you get a nice 9 RR. You can even get a nice 6 RR out of this, and you're chilling. Price builds up, price induces on the M5. One thing that I want you to like always make note of is in Asia, you typically do want RBOS. If you're taking Asia trades without RBOS, you're gonna get kind of fried, unless you trade something else other than like just normal lit. But like, just look for RBOS on the M3, M5 with inducement, and I promise you, your win rate will be so fucking high. If you just take M3, M5 cycles with RBOS, price RBOS is here, right? Pulls back down, taps into M5 POI. Look, this is a fucking 20-point stop, but you get a solid 6 RR, and you can hit this every single day, which is why, like, if you see Ash shares chart, right? Most of the trades you'll see him hit are like 6 to 10 RRs, because it's just simply consistency, right? If you can be consistent with that, then you're good. You don't need fucking, can I give a quick setup? What do you mean give a quick setup? Nigga, you asking me for money? Can you go over protruding FVG again? It's not like an OB protruding an FVG. It's more of just a PA thing. Like this call, has been hella rushed just because I'm going over like a shit ton of concepts that you can use or like apply to lit. But um, if you're asking about this, like why did I choose like this FVG? I'm assuming that's what you're asking of like why I chose like this FVG instead of any other FVG and like why I'm okay with this FVG hitting in and not reaching this OB because like some of you may be wondering like, oh well, why shouldn't I wait for like this OB, right? Well, it's because there's an OB preceding this FEG. So this OB gets blown through, these orders are collected, this FEG gets tapped. Now only is this FEG get strong enough. If you used this FEG right here without this OB above it, this FEG is going to get ran through because FEGs simply just don't have that much um, strength in them. So you need an OB to get blown through before it and then take that FEG. And that FEG will likely hold. I don't want to confuse you with like a bunch of bullshit. So I'm honestly gonna say just look at OBs for mitigation. It's so easy. Like look, you can see like 90% of my trades are taken off of OBs. This was an OB. This one was off of an OB at the top. This one was off of an OB. This one was off of an OB. This one was off of an FEG. But actually, this might have been off of an OB. But like 90% of my trades are off of M5, M15 OBs. Like you can fucking see. So that's why I don't want you to get confused and like thinking about, oh, well, what's the right FEG and blah, 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 right? Um, so just think about price builds up, right? Like this, price builds up, and then you mitigate an OB, and then you push down, right? And this eliminates the need for having to have that R boss because typically at 930, you're not getting an R boss. Typically, price is just going to run, and you're not going to get fucking retracement. So typically, what you want is price to mitigate the same way in ICT you take like 15-minute deliveries off of PD arrays. Think about it like that. It's just 15-minute deliveries off of PD arrays, except it eliminates the need for an R boss, and rather you're taking like rejection. Like here, this is your entry. I drew that like shit, and then price goes down, right? If that makes sense. So that's like that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the vid. I'm going to talk a lot about um at all time highs. Do I wait for our boss? Nah, I just long. There will be very few times where I short out all time highs, and I'll explain that in a bit actually. But like there's no reason for me to wait for an R boss here. Like I appreciate it. But here, I'll explain to you like fucking hell, this guy Ash has 10 alerts on his screen. But okay, whatever. I'll explain to you more of TA regarding inducement. Can I analyze your USD? Ping Ash. Him and I, we share the same trading account. And these are all of his EU markups. I don't trade EU, he does. But this is everything that he's taken on EU. So you're hikey gonna have to ask him. But yeah, I'm just not a big EU guy. Even though it's very very clean, it's almost perfect for lit, but I just don't trade it. But here's like a quick tip for all time highs. All time highs, you're only gonna short if the 1 hour is accumulating. Okay, and previously, I'm sure a few of you knew that, or I said this prior, I wanted this to be high of month, and I'll explain why. But obviously, we had fucking news, and that blew us past high of month. But essentially, right here, you're going to get a push off of all time highs when the 1 hour is accumulating. However, there's two different instances in which this happened in, well, this month, right? But this one rallied back up instantly. This one had an entire range down. And the reason why is, again, because of decisional manipulation or inducement, if you want to call it. So right here, you have accumulation, right? Except you see how we have, again, lit is simply just AMD, but explained better. So right here, if you have price inducing or manipulating upwards and then expanding down. Here you have price inducing or manipulating upwards and expanding down, right? However, if you take a look at this doesn't really look like decisional inducement. This doesn't look like inducement with vector candles in one direction, right? Again, remember, it needs to be high momentum candles in one singular direction. Doesn't really look like that here, does it? So you see price not really have decisional inducement. Therefore, this is not really manipulation as a whole. So what you're going to see is this in itself is manipulation. Then you react off of a higher time frame SMT, this 1 hour right here, and then you see price push up, right? However, here you see very decisional inducement, very decisional manipulation. So in any case, if you're even thinking about manipulation or you're talking to some fucking AMD trader or whatever, right? Just tell the AMD trader, hey, quick tip, look for decisional manipulation, right? Manipulation that has vector candles in one direction, not inducement that's hesitant like this, in one direction. Therefore, you can tell that this was actual manipulation and on the 1 hour, and we are now heading down. A quick recap for this day, because there was very, very nice trades this day. So what happened is, one thing to understand about PA as well is if we induce in PM the previous day and we fail to expand off of that, we will expand in Asia. For example, here, we fail to expand off of PM inducement right here, right? Or AM, PM, whatever you want to call it, right? HTF draws being met here. So what we're going to do in Asia the next day is we are going to expand. However, one very major important thing is right here. So a lot of people didn't take this because they were like, oh, we didn't FBOSS, we didn't tap into any structure, right? Well, for one, you don't necessarily always need an FBOSS. You can have taps in the structure. But two, ES tapped into this whole big chunk of structure right here. This whole big chunk of structure. Whereas NQ didn't really tap into any structure. So this should have been enough confirmation for you to take this entry. And for the guy asking about M3, M5, take a look at this. You have an M3 POI, price comes down, RBOSS is right here, pulls back up, taps back into your IDM POI, and pushes all the way down, right? Very, very easy, very, very simple. Just having a nice narrative in the first place would be good, right? Like one of my boys, Samu, took longs here. Ash also took longs here, but having like this overall narrative would have helped you take shorts instead. But you go right here, and here the HTF SMT was this entire block, right? And this is like a huge thing to understand about HTF SMTs. HTF SMTs can either provide full range expansions or they can provide small pullbacks. So here I refined the HTF SMT down to the 15-minute. But if you're looking at this, right, you need to understand that if price is overall extremely bearish, right, or we want price to be extremely bearish, this HTF SMT isn't going to provide a full range expansion like this. It's likely just going to give you that small pullback. You can long off of this, except it's just risky. And then you have a microcycle. You can look at this on the M1, which is contrary to what I said, staying on the M3, M5 in Asia. But you see this on the M1, price builds up, taps into structure, mitigates, and then bang, and I took this soup continuation because, again, it's that same thing. If you're not looking for like RBOSS or anything like that, you need confirmation that this is the inducement protected high. You can't just take like bullshit like, shit like here, right? You need it to be confirmed inducement protected high, and then you take a continuation. Also, don't see this as, oh, we reject off of here, and then now I'm going to take like some shit like this because we're bearish, right? You need to think, okay, well, price can probably pull back, so I'm going to take some kind of Conti in that direction. Even if you wanted to take a Conti here, again, put your stops at the high in Asia. Stop should always go at the high in Asia. And then you take price down to your HTF draw. Very, very nice day. But there was a day in which we had an entire range expansion off of an HTF SMT right here, where price 1800, again, manipulation induced down into an HTF SMT. However, This was more of just an OB. I call all HTF SMTs OBs, or all HTF OBs SMTs, but some of them will simply be SMTs. For example, like the one that we went over here. This is build up, this is inducement, this is obviously an SMT if we're really bearish, right? But on NQ, we obviously know NQ is a fucking bullish asset, right? So price induces down 1800 manipulation. We tap into a bullish HTF OB, and then we have a bullish cycle right here. Accumulation, FBOS, RBOS, tap back into M5 POI, and then you have this right here. And then this provided the entire day's expansion, right? So there's two instances in which that will happen, or two reactions off of HTF SMTs. I gave you both of them because I talked about it a little bit earlier. Like in this case, it was just a pullback, right? Because we are bullish, right? So this bearish one is just going to be a pullback in order to go higher, and then we ended up expanding pretty high. So yeah. Let's see if there's other questions. There are 3 pings. Hold on. Let me explain. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'll just show this on my screen then. That was a fire quote, by the way, Matthew. I saw what you posted. But could I analyze this real quick and why the buildup beneath didn't get taken? This? Why did this? It did. You got induced. Just the far right. Oh, far right. I'm fucking stupid. Why the buildup beneath didn't get taken? What are you talking about? This? Nigga, it did get taken, bro. Look at this. Build up, inducement, vector candles, FBOS something to the left. Price goes down. And then you had a div at your lows. There's likely like a div right there, right? And then you had, again, what is this? A distribution div at what? 9:30. So what do you think is going to happen? You have a distribution div at 9:30, so price reverses once more. Distribution div is when it doesn't take your full build-up target, right? If your target here is the build-up lows, right? After 9:30, price will likely reverse all of that. Like before 9:30, that shit will probably not hold, but after 9:30, it'll likely hold very, very well. You still need context. Like sometimes you can take reversals off of it, sometimes you'll get fucking fried. You have to wait for confirmation, always. Like I will always wait for confirmation on those distribution divs, and I always want them to be like major structure. Like if you see like right here, this wasn't really major like liquidity, right? Major structure, so I didn't take shorts off of this one. But this one, I waited for confirmation that we were actually bearish given this candle, and then I took the pullback, right? But they're still risky. But that should explain a lot of like the things that you see in the market where you're just like, oh well, why did we fully reverse without taking my build up, right? That's why. Should I follow the path of education channel? Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I joined the server like a week ago. I haven't gone through any of this shit. What are you talking about? Here? This looks like a lot of talking. I'm not reading all that. Where did I learn lit? My own. I just watched videos. I actually mainly only watched Reams. And then a little bit of Arctics. Like as much as you guys hear me shit on Arctic, like his beginning videos explain lit very well. So yeah. But like later on you're not really gonna get much out of that. Which is why I say maybe don't buy that shit. But beginning videos are nice. Some of them I can't play the leaks that I have because they're watermarked with someone's IP. This guy knows. Cammy of T. So I can't do that. They're uh they're watermarked with my boy's IP and it's floating around the screen. So I'm not gonna fucking flash his IP on the screen and cook him. But um but like Hunyu's doing it now too? Nah, that's crazy. Yeah, I did that for my mentorship students as well. Fuck, I can't show that either because it'll flash my shit as well. But yeah, it's such a good way to have your shit not get leaked. Um, yeah, bro, I'm not gonna lie, dude. If you can get a refund on your shit, you should because the thing is you're gonna get one lecture every like 2 weeks, bro. Like you're going to get one lecture every 2 weeks, and you know those like first 10 videos that you watched? That's everything, and then everything else is like additional. Bro, I'm being so dead ass. Why do you think I shit on Arctic so much? Like he's a great trader, but he's just not a good like he's not a good teacher in terms of like you're going like Cammy, how many lectures have you gotten since you joined? 5, and I'm assuming like I can name the first 5 that you got because like that's the most you're gonna get, bro. And then later on you're gonna get like fucking like he'll slowly start to slow down the amount of leaks that you're gonna get. Like I'm sure you got Asia X Anatomy and you got uh all the AMD ones. Yeah, and then those are like the beginning ones and then you're not going to get anything after that. Nah, it's not fucking limited. Like bro, I can teach you the yo, watch Kemi. I'm going to teach you more than Arctic's ever going to teach you. Watch this. All right. I talked a little bit about Fry's POI earlier, right? But here's like a little bit more of an in-depth explanation, right? I'm assuming you you haven't learned this because it's later on. But here you go, right? So hold on, that's my flight information. All right. So price obviously expands down, right? And dark side, I'm gonna explain that question. Probably. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I know a lot of personal friends in Fries. It's just like I end up teaching them more than they learn from Arctic. That's why I have like 5 or 6 people in apostles leaking to me because they just like me more than Arctic. Why do you think Hanyu left? Because he just doesn't like Arctic. But anyways, I'll get to this in a bit. But so you have an SMT, right? And let's say you miss, I don't know, your entry up here, your entry up here, your entry up here, right? And you get fucked, right? Then what's gonna happen is you have an SMT, right? And you know that these provide pullbacks. So this is going to invite buyers in, right? Then what's gonna happen is price is gonna run straight through it. And then the OB created off of that pullback is going to be what Arctic is going to call a Fry's POI. If you want to do a little bit of Googling, you can do ICT flip zone. And you can take a look at this. Exactly what I just explained. So then price is going to blow through the SMT after pulling back. It's going to blow through it, retrace back, and then go down. And this is now the entry that you can get. So this is a Conti if you end up missing any of these. So you can, I don't know, study this if you want. Just Google ICT flip zone, but he just renamed it to something else. All of it is just rebranded. All of it. Nobody knew. I don't mentor anymore. But nobody knew about it being a flip zone until I'm sure you've seen Ash in here. He was fucking on Gemini and he was like, name me concepts, ICT concepts I might not know. And then it gave him ICT flip zone and he's like, wait, this looks really fucking familiar. because you're likely not going to find this in like anywhere because it's really fucking old. Um, but you don't want to. He ignores like 90% of his students. It's fucking wild to me. But yeah, yeah, good glaze by the way. What the fuck. Um, yeah, he doesn't answer anyone. But make an exception. Nah, my shit used to be a band, but I don't teach anymore. So yeah. Or I don't like one-on-one teach anymore. I'm like past it. Okay, I'm gonna answer this question. How do you differentiate between order flow and build up? So the way you're going to okay, I'm gonna go over like a kind of model for you to understand because it's somewhat important to how you trade lit. So if you are taking price so okay, I'm gonna say order flow works hardly ever. I'm not gonna lie to you, especially recently. But let's take price like this, right? So hold on, let me push this down right here, right? If we look at price like this, and let's say there is, I don't know, something like this, right? And you're in the middle of a range and you see price, okay, we're building up, right? We induced upwards, right? Vector candles, and we mitigated this OB, right? If you're in the middle of a range, right? This is going to work very, very nicely. You're going to likely get order flow, meaning, okay, you might get this, this, and then a push down, right? One very, very nice way to understand if order flow will actually hold is if the order flow makes an R boss, meaning you should only take, and this is typically for Asia, but okay, let's say you have your IDMPOY, right? This, you should not be looking for a retrace into this order flow unless we break past this low and then we push back into it. Okay? That's only when you should be looking at order flow. However, there will be another instance in which you will see often, and it will be when you're at extremes, where when you're at extremes, you're not going to get order flow. So typically, if you see price failing to expand off of like an inducement and then start breaking highs and then just kind of doing bullshit, what you're going to end up getting is you're going to end up getting some like tiny ass cycle like this, a push past re-inducing this high, and then you're going to get a full expansion downwards. And to many of you, this may look familiar, and this is just a Wyckoff schematic. So if some of you are familiar with Wyckoff, if you flip this upside down, or actually if you take this in price builds up, price induces, fails to expand off of that inducement, retakes that high and pushes down, just basic price action. So I can show you an example of both of those. So if we take a look at like right here, you see how we're like in the middle of a range, so order flow works here. However, and here's, hold on, I'll find another example for you. Like right here, price, we're in the middle of a range, we mitigated that OB, and then order flow works very, very well here, right? So if you're in the middle of a range, you can expect price to just expand off of what looks like buildup. But if you're at an extreme, so what will happen is if you're in the middle of a range, price is going to build up, and then you're going to see, okay, maybe it does some shit like this where you get like multiple pyramids. If you're in the middle of a range, price is just going to dump off of it. But if you are at an extreme and price is failing to expand off of this inducement, you're going to get a push up and then a dump down. So like this, right? Literally exactly what I drew earlier. Price built up, price induced, and then you see how we fail to actually respect order flow, and not only respect order flow, but we're not really expanding off of this inducement, right? So then price came here, and this is also a form of enticement where price is pushing down, enticing you into entering buys and thinking you're gonna hold to like all-time fucking highs to Narnia. But in reality, you're shorting because price is just inducing upwards. You had an AMD div, a manipulation div. We didn't actually take this high because we already had a div here. And then here, I just took any kind of Conti. So you can see a very popular theme, and when I take entries, is I'm only taking entries when I know this is an inducement confirmed high after I see solid confirmation. This is not confirmation for me. The next candle being bearish is. So any kind of confirmation like that is confirmation for me, not like random ass shit. You know what I mean? Um, but here I can go into more examples. Uh, I had a fucking TikTok where I took a few nice high day trades based on this. But right here. Okay, here you go. Very nice. Literally the same thing you can see I explained to a previous student, right? But look, price builds up, price induces, fails to expand off of that inducement, right? So what's going to happen is we push up FBOS and then bang go down, and then you see us go all the way down, right? So that's the difference between order flow. It's a little bit more intuitive, but you can kind of get the hang of it as it goes on. But yeah, does that help? So that's the difference between order flow and uh, build up or accumulation. Yeah, the concept in itself is gate kept, but and yeah, he ghosts a shit ton. Inducement of vector candle makes it. Yes, exactly. Inducement, like okay, in a characteristic of inducement is vector candles. It's not like inducement if it doesn't have vector candles. Look how literally every single inducement on my screen has vector candles. There is not a single one that doesn't have vector candles. Look, vectors all the way up, vectors, vectors. I'll zoom in a little bit. Hold on. This is an example of just mitigation, right? Price induces down mitigated. All right, there you go. Ignore this. So look how no inducement here that I take a pyramided trade off of is not off of inducement. So like, look, inducement, vector candles, vectors, vectors, vectors up, took shorts, vectors down off of this build up, took longs. Look right here, build up, vectors down, HTF draws met, push up. Build up prior to 930, push up. This high wasn't going to be taken because we already mitigated an OB. Price pushes down, right? And you can just, it's very, very apparent that I just don't take anything without vector candle. Look, vector candles, right? What's a vector candle? A high momentum candle. It's literally just a high momentum candle. Candles that look like this. Do you need a vector candle indicator? No, but Ash made one if you want it. I can send that to you. Hold on. I'm sure Cammy, you know the apostles indicator you have, the one that's like limited to you guys? Actually, hold on. I'll just show it on stream here. Here's apostles. But you see how it points out vector candles, right? like this. Ashes does the same thing. It just removes all of the other bullshit on your chart. That's what the fuck. Oh, there you go. We have imbalance candle indicator two of J. Yeah, I mean most of them are just useless. This is, bro. If I'm not gonna lie to you, bro, if you need like an indicator to tell you if there's vector candles, you might be a little retarded because it's fucking high momentum candles. Yeah, bro. I don't know if you can get a fucking refund on that shit, but you're finished. And why did I stop teaching? I had a bunch of bullshit with students. Um, a lot of them were pretty ungrateful, but regardless of that, it's not an interest of mine anymore. Like I used to teach for free, but I stopped. And then because it was just like I taught like 200, 300 people for free, and then only one stuck to it, and that was Ash. And then I taught a few other people for free, and it was just a huge waste of my time. So I made it paid, and then now I'm not really teaching anymore because it just takes such a big toll on me, and it's just it felt more like a responsibility than a passion. Um, yeah, bro. He was my IRL, and he saw me trading in Spanish class, and he was like, "Yo, bro, what's that?" And and that's how I taught him. And he's now like my best student. Let me read this. Do you know what's a valid high or low that will make price reverse towards order flow or buildup? I don't know what you mean by that, but um, I don't know what you mean by that. I'm sorry. Considering another free mentorship, probably fucking not. Like the most you're gonna get out of me is like if you join this server and then like every now and then you'll see me maybe have a live call or you'll see like those videos that I put out and maybe I'll do recaps. But that's like the most you're getting because like it's just so hard to teach individually a group of people because 90% of them just aren't gonna stick to it. No, I don't post recaps right now, but like here I can show you. Hold on, I can show you my site, or I did. Right, so I don't know where half of them went, but like you see how there's a part one and a part two. That big video that I'm gonna make is these two combined, but I just have to remake it, and then there's just a bunch of recaps. I can upload these to YouTube if you'd like, but yeah, and then there you go. Yeah. All right, I'll because Matthew, in that video itself, it's gonna be like a 2 hour video, and I'm gonna have like every concept that I've explained here. I'm gonna have like 3 or 4 examples for every concept I explain. So, it's it that should be enough examples. But yeah. Um yeah, all of this will be for free. I'm not fucking making shit paid anymore. I couldn't be bothered. Um and also don't fucking get caught up in bullshit. But yeah, like that. But yeah, of course, man. How do you know if this high is getting ran is gonna provide shorts? Brother, you got induced. You have build up, you have inducement, and you have a push down. The TikTok kit? Probably. Uh TikTok should just be kept up. I don't post anymore. I had like one post that was like a Top Step live. Yeah. I'll open it. I cannot. Hold on. Let me see if I can open this. Yeah, there you go. There was this post and a few others. Yeah, that's yeah. I can do a breakdown of these trades. Hold on. I can do a breakdown of these trades because these weren't that long ago. I mean, they're like a month ago, but not too long ago. They're right here. Hell no. Yeah, Matthew. I'll follow you later. I think I've seen you. I think I don't know, maybe, but I'll let you know. Okay. So another thing is for like when I look at high day, low day, I'm only looking at them for very certain timings, like very specific key timings. And those key timings are typically the ones that you will see Ream teach. So like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., 3:30, 5:30, right? Or in the case where Asia makes low of day, where I told you if HTF draws are met in PM the previous day, Asia will expand and create low of day or high of day. But right here, so we induce down into about 3:30. I wait for this inducement low to be protected. Once I understand that this is protected, I take this trade. And if I know this is going to be low of day, I'm just holding this shit. And then we had Trump talk at 7, and that's when I closed out. But it's literally just a lit cycle. There's nothing special about it. So that was like one of them. That was this one. But yeah. And then there was this, which is basically same logic. I used mitigation to the left, but I'm always taking trades after inducement highs are confirmed. For example, I'm not taking this after fucking 10 consecutive bullish candles. I'm waiting. Okay, is inducement high confirmed for me? If it is confirmed for me, then only am I shorting, and I'm taking um and I'm taking this, right? But other than that, I'm not fucking taking anything if it's not an inducement. And like for me, it's confirmed if I see like, okay, this bearish pressure goes through. Once this bearish pressure goes through, I'm taking the next candle pullback, kind of like how you see me look at 9:30. Um, yeah, that was same for me. Um, I can show you like, and that trade was this one, where it was just this and then dump. But like these were all I think not lit, and then these were all lit. Um, so yeah, but I started only posting until after I got like good with lit, and I posted like some demos when I was starting to learn lit. But yeah, um, most of these you can literally see on the screen. You can just see build up, inducement, and you can tell like, okay, why am I holding these trades? Well, because again, look at the timing. It's 3 a.m., right? So it's one of those high of day, low of day times. So I'm taking these shorts, right? Again, low of day. Many of these are high of day, low of day times, and then I'm just holding for pretty much the entire day. And then this is that's Top Step Live, but this is pretty much that exact same shit that I showed you earlier, wherever the fuck it is. Right here. What day is this? The 31st. That didn't work. Yeah. Uh, Socials, it should just be kept out futures on everything. I appreciate it, man. Much love to everyone. But if you have literally any other questions, I'm not here to fucking plug my shit over and over again. But if you have questions, please ask. Hey, of course. I got you, man. Have a nice one. I'll see you. NDA. I NDA'd my students as well, but I genuinely just said they can talk about whatever the fuck they want. Um, now, yeah, I it's pointless. This did not go down. I mean, bro, I can't see the fucking time of the day or anything, bro. Like what do you want? This cycle got finished, so it went down and then it pushed back up. What more you want? 9:35. I mean, bro, you finished the cycle. You pushed up. You induced upwards. You have plus. You mitigate this OB right here. I'm assuming this is like an M5, M15 OB, right? And then you push up. Yeah, dark side. Can you accept my boy real quick? If you can. Wait, so to prior to that, no, you do. But look, you built up, you induced, and then you also induce down. Like this downward move can also be inducement. This is very decisional inducement. So if price induces down, mitigates this OB and pushes up. This guy said, "Oh shit." I mean that's fair. Yeah, same shit. It's because Walter blows Max Allo often, or not often. I won't say often, but occasionally, and it's just because lit with standard deviation is just not. No, not on purpose. It's just because lit with standard deviation isn't, in my opinion, it's not solid because the thing is like when you're trading lit with standard deviation, like without a doubt, is just air levels. It's just when price is so deviated from its mean that it will revert back. Give me 1 second. But it's like okay, but in that case, right? You can't take okay, and then you have like an SADV right here, right? You can't validate like what a lot of people are trying to fucking do with lit and standard deviation is they're like, oh, well, this lit cycle is validated only if this STDV level is hit. Rather, you should be thinking, okay, I have these STDV, these standard deviation levels, but this inducement hasn't ended yet, right? And maybe these, I don't know, hold on. Maybe these two have mitigation, right? But this one, the inducement hasn't ended yet. So instead, you should be validating standard deviation with lit, not the other way around. Meaning you should be saying, okay, well, this standard deviation level is only valid because we induced into it and we're now slowing down. So now I'm going to take this entry. Not like, oh, this lit cycle is only valid because there's a standard deviation lined up with it. Um, I would just say regardless, standard deviation and lit isn't the best way to do it because the thing is when you trade lit, you never want to limit yourself with an entry. Meaning, like, if you look at my entry models, which is either soups, continuations, or rejections, all three of those cover each other. Meaning, if there is any lit cycle presented, for example, this one, any of these lit cycles are presented, right? I am not going to miss out on an entry because my entry didn't present, but I still got the lit cycle correct. Because lit will give you a near 100% win rate. The only reason you're not going to have a 100% win rate is because you're human and you have error. However, it will define every expansion in the market. I will go on fucking, I don't know, cattle and show you that lit works, right? But like you can even look at this in hindsight and you can be like, okay, well, I can see all the lit cycles right now. But if you are taking entry models in whichever way you want to take entry models, you can't have it limit your lit cycle. Meaning, if you're looking at a lit cycle, but the entry model says, okay, well, I can't take this trade because it doesn't follow my entry model, but I have the lit cycle correct, then you're trading lit wrong. Which is also why you see Hanyu and Walter take standard deviation with lit because it provides so many entries, right? But you don't, want to you don't want to limit your entries. But yeah. Most of my trades are 1 minute. Yes, 100%. This is like the definition of how I trade. It's just